Welcome to the Find Your Exit podcast. We're the leading authority on buying, selling, fixing, and growing companies. Michelle Seiler Tucker is dedicated to helping you find the path to retire rich and move on to your next adventure by exiting your business for the desired dream price you deserve. Get ready to find your exit with your host, Michelle Seiler Tucker.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Find Your Exit. Today, we're going to talk about the human and business life cycle. So what does that mean? You're probably asking yourself, the human and business life cycle, what does that mean? Well, we're going to get into that shortly. So the big thing that business owners should know is that none of you plan to fail. Business owners don't go into business and say, I'm going to fail today. I'm going to mess up my business. I'm going to do whatever it takes so that I fail. People don't plan to fail. They fail to plan. No business owner wants to go into business and have to end up going out of business. However, unfortunately, you've heard me say this many times before, the business landscape has changed dramatically. It used to be that 95% of all startups from years 1 to 5 would go out of business. Well, that has changed dramatically. When I wrote Exit Rich, right up here on the shelf, when I wrote Exit Rich in 2019, I did the research again and realized that startups are not at risk anymore. Startups, only 30% of those businesses will go out of business from 1 to 5 years. If you own a business and you've been in business over 10 years, you're at risk. 70% of business owners that have been in business for 10 years or longer is at risk of going out of business. That's out of a sample size of 27.626 million businesses. 27 million businesses. Over 27 million businesses. Those are startling statistics from the Small Business Association Office of Advocacy report. I was so shocked by this that I had to do the research. I had my team do the research over and over and over again because I just did not believe the numbers. How can 70% of businesses go out of business? But you hear the big box stories all the time. You hear about Toys R Us went out of business, JCPenney's, Kmart, GNC is closing down 900 locations. Of course, Blockbuster. What you don't hear about are the small business owners on every street corner, in every town, in every state across our great nation. These businesses are unfortunately dropping like flies, over 70%. And that's a huge number when you think about that's out of 27 million businesses, and there's only 30.2 million small business owners, 30.2 million. So out of 27 million, 70% are going out of business. So this is extremely concerning. And by the way, this is before COVID. Now you're going to have even more businesses go out of business. And the problem with small business owners going out of business, small businesses are the backbone of our economy. Small businesses employ over half the workforce. Over half the workforce. So if small businesses go out of business, guess what you're going to have? You're going to have lots of jobs. You're going to have lots of loss of spending power, loss of jobs, loss of spending power. So we got to keep small businesses in business as they are the backbone of this economy. I like to compare a human cycle to a business cycle. So when a newborn is born, a baby, a newborn, they go straight into the incubator, right? There's prematures that go into the incubator. Newborns go into an incubator. And when you come up with a business idea, if you're not buying a business, if you're starting a business, if you come up with a business idea, if you invent something, that idea, that invention typically goes into what I call the incubator stage, the newborn stage, the incubator stage. Did you know that 90% of ideas and inventions never, ever make it out of the incubator? 90%. That's a huge number. So I want to compare our human cycle and our business cycle to a very well-known company that we are all familiar with. no matter where you live, you're familiar with this company. Toys R Us. In 1948, Charles Lazarus opens a baby furniture store in Washington, D.C., just as a baby boom begins. Now, he did not start out with toys. He started out with furniture. So he had one store. Now, you go from the incubator stage to the infant. What do infants need? What do infants do? Infants need everything. They need 24-hour supervision. They need constant hand-holding. What do infants do? Infants cry a lot. Infants eat. Infants shit. They need constant supervision. And of course, they need money. Same thing in businesses. What does an infant, think about a business in its infancy stage. What does that business need? One, 1957, Lazarus opened up his first store modeled after a supermarket. In 1957, now think about that. Toys R Us was his first store modeled after a supermarket. What do you do in supermarkets? You stack things as high as you possibly can. And that's how he started Toys R Us. And Lazarus had 4 stores in 1957. So he opened up one store in 1957 and opened up 3 more. So he had a total of 4 stores. So after infant, what's next? Toddler stage, the terrible twos. So toddlers can at least feed themselves, somewhat feed themselves. They are getting potty trained. They are crawling, starting to walk, starting to be somewhat self-sufficient, but guess what? They still need a tremendous amount of hand-holding. They still need a lot of attention, a lot of supervision, and they need money. So think about a toddler business. All of you right now that are listening should be thinking about your business. Are you in the incubator stage? Or do you have infancy business, or is your business a toddler? 1969, Toys R Us adopts Jeffrey the giraffe as its brand mascot. 1974, Lazarus files for bankruptcy. Now think about that. In 1958, Lazarus had 4 stores, right? 1974, almost 20 years later, he files for bankruptcy, leading to a restructuring. Okay, he sells off unprofitable divisions. 1978, Toys R Us goes public. So he files bankruptcy, and then he goes public. Teenager. So we're going to go in from toddler all the way up to teenager. So teenagers are at least somewhat self-sufficient, most of them, right? Some of you might be sitting out there going, my teenager's not self-sufficient at all. Well, for the most part, they can feed themselves. They can hopefully clothe themselves, and they can go to the bathroom on their own. But teenagers are what? They rebel. They think they know it all. They want to do it their way. And they're reckless. Same thing with a teenager business. Teenager business still needs money, still needs supervision. They don't have all the answers. Okay. So in 1983, the first Kids R Us clothing store opens. 1994, they have 1,000 stores worldwide. And then 1996, Babies R Us opens. 1998, Walmart beats Toys R Us for the title of top U.S. toy seller for the very first time. So after teenager, what do? We go into young adult. So now the teenagers moving into the young adult, they're self-sufficient at this point, hopefully making some of their own money. Many might still be living at home, still needs some supervision, still needs capital, still needs mom and dad to pay some bills. Kind of the same thing for a business. The business is doing much better than all the other previous stages, but it still is not functioning on all 6 cylinders, all 6 Ps, which we'll get into in a few minutes. And it still needs supervision and capital injections. So in 2001, the company, Toys R Us company, moves its corporate campus to New Jersey for $36 million. They spent $36 million in 2001 as a young adult. In 2015, Toys R Us beats its biggest competitor, FAO Schwarz, leading to the permanent closure of their 5th store. So then you go from the young adult to the adult. The adult is when you are in your prime. Things are better than it's ever been. This is when you should sell your business. A lot of business owners try to sell their business when they're in the infant stage or they're in the incubator stage. They try to raise money. I mean, how many times have you seen on Shark Tank a business owner that's in the incubator stage or in the infancy stage, or maybe a toddler trying to sell their business for $5 million or $10 million when the valuation is really maybe $500,000 or $1 million, okay? This is when you should be selling your business, is when you get to the adult stage. When you're in the adult stage, you're in your prime. It's the best it's ever been. So 2015, Toys R Us is in its prime. They beat their biggest competitor, FAO Schwarz, leading to permanent closure of their Fifth Avenue store, of FAO Schwarz Fifth Avenue store. This is huge for Toys R Us. In 2016, revenues reached its all-time highest at $11.5 billion. If they were going to sell, this is the time to sell. $11.5 billion. That's adult. Now, what happens after adulthood? What do? It's called the senior citizen stage. So adults begin to deteriorate. They're not as strong as they once were. They can't do the things they used to be able to do. They can't get around as well as they once did. Their memory's not there. So same thing with a business. In the senior citizen business, this is a very scary stage because this is where the business starts to trend downward. This is where the business starts to go backwards. This is where the business has problems. And you have to learn, you have to be able to fix your business here in this stage. If you don't fix your business in this stage, then it's going to be disastrous after senior citizen. We'll get there in a minute. So September 19, 2017, Toys R Us files for bankruptcy. September 19, 2017, they file for bankruptcy. After senior citizen, if you don't fix your business in this stage, what happens? You guessed it, my friends. Death. Death. The business dies. And March 14, 2018, Toys R Us closes 800 U.S. stores. 800. By August 5th, 2018, all 1,500 stores closed in 35 countries. This was a business that was in its prime doing $11.5 billion. A few years later, they filed bankruptcy and they closed all their stores in 35 countries. It happens. It happens. It's probably happened to some of you listening. It happens all the time. These are the stories you hear about. But there's so many businesses out there that are closing that you never hear about. So you have to ask yourself right here and right now, what stage is your business in? If you're an adult business, you might want to think about selling right now while you're in your prime, because what goes up must come down. So look at what stage you are in your business. Now, what happens after death? Well, it's called rebirth. You can bring a business back to life. You really can. It's not easy, but time and time again, brands have done it, companies have done it. You can rebirth the company over. It's very difficult. It's much better to try to keep that business in the prime, in its adult stage, than it is to go through senior citizen, die, and have to start over with rebirth. So starting over with Toys R Us kids, they're starting over. And their slogan is, starting over. We're the new kids, but we're also built upon 70 years of history. 70 years of history. Now, it took 70 years to go in and out of these stages. Their brand is True Kids. True Kids brands, smaller boutiques. So now they're not going to have the huge grocery store type model. They're going to have the smaller boutiques. They've reopened 2 Toys R Us stores. Coming soon will be Jeffrey, the giraffe stores, boutique stores, and Babies R Us boutique stores. So they're rebuilding, but it's a slow, painful process. So companies have to do everything in their power to try to stay in the stage of adult in your prime. 70% of businesses fail due to lack of what I call AIM. AIM. You're probably asking me, what is AIM, Michelle? What does that mean? That means always, always, always innovate and market. The reason these businesses go out of business after being in business for 10 years is because they stopped asking the client, what do you need? What do you want? How can I make it easier to do business with my company? How can I make your experience doing business with my company more enjoyable? What can I do for you to make your life easier? Whatever company makes it easier for the consumer to do business with them, then that company is winning. Take Amazon. Amazon makes it easy for everyone in the world to do business with them. No matter where you are, you can be butt naked in your bed, order whatever you want, and it will show up to your house in 2 days. Where else can you do that? And business owners have become complacent. They stopped asking the customer, what do you need? What do you want? They stopped innovating. They stopped pivoting. They stopped changing things, and they stopped marketing. That's what Blockbuster did. They saw the writing on the wall when Netflix came in, and Netflix was going to do live streaming. Blockbuster was fat and happy, so they rested on their laurels and did nothing. So Blockbuster died a slow and painful death. So AIM, always innovate and always market to stay in your prime, to stay in that adult stage. 90% of businesses also will not sell. And I alluded to this earlier, that a lot of business owners try to sell in the incubator stage when you have nothing. Or they try to sell when they're a toddler and they want to get $20 million for their company, and the company's not operating on all 6 cylinders. It's really not a $20 million company. It might be $1 million company, but they want $20 million because that's what they need to retire on. That's what they need to enter the next phase of their life on. So 90% of these businesses do not sell because they don't sell in the right stage. You need to sell as an adult, not as an infant, not as an incubator, not as a teenager, in the adult stage. So I always say successful entrepreneurs make mistakes too. And most businesses, again, I've been doing this for over 20 years. I've been in the trenches. I've seen it all. And most business owners don't operate their business on what I call the Seiler Tucker 6 Ps. And when you don't do that, you're not going to have a scalable, sellable business. And if you mess up on 1 P, you can go from adult to senior citizen very quickly, and then to death. You've seen it with Toys R Us. Toys R Us lacked innovation. Toys R Us didn't change things for 40, 50, 60 years. They never asked the client, what does the client want? How can we make their experience more enjoyable? So let's look at the 6 Ps. Let's talk about the 6 Ps real quick. So number 1, people. Does the business have people? If the business doesn't have people, I can guarantee you're not in an adult stage. If the business relies upon you to run the company, then you're not in an adult stage. And if you're a manufacturing plant and you say, oh, well, I don't have W-2s, I have 1099s, you're making a huge mistake. I have clients that I'm working with right now that have 1099s in the warehouse, in a manufacturing plant, in a shipping yard. That's a huge mistake. One catastrophic event could occur, And that can send your business to death very quickly. So employees, people is huge. That's the number one thing. Employees, management team, have the right employees. If you're going to have 1099s are great in a sales capacity. In a capacity where maybe they're working virtual and they work for you and they work for other companies. They are not good to work in environments where there's no workers' comp or there's no protection, and one injury, one catastrophic event could cause your business into death, to go into the death stage. So the other thing that's really important is product. So ask yourself, look at your business. Is your industry, your product thriving or dying? Are you on the way up or on the way out? Which is it? Blockbuster was on the way out and did nothing to innovate. Toys R Us, on the way out, did nothing to innovate. What about your business? How's your product industry? Since COVID, it's changed dramatically. Those industries that were once dying are now thriving. And some of the industries like hospitality that were thriving are now dying. So look at your industry and pivot. Processes. Lack of processes can definitely cost you money when it comes to making a profit. You know, so many business owners lack processes. And I always tell my clients, always make sure when you design your processes, you design them with the customer experience in mind and are well documented and well trained on. If you don't have the right processes and you're not running at an efficient, productive level, then that can send your business into a senior citizen and a death experience. And then proprietary. Proprietary is huge, and there's several different pillars of proprietary. But first and foremost, protect your brand name. Protect your company name. Don't just get a local trademark, get a federal trademark. Protect your contracts. If you have client contracts, that's a huge value driver, but make sure they're transferable. If you have patents, you know, if you have any intellectual property, if you have an invention, make sure you get a patent pending. Make sure you protect it. Make sure you get those trademarks. Also, databases are huge. What surprises me is I have a couple of manufacturing clients that have, you know, they have one manufacturer. If that deal falls apart, guess what happens? They have no backup plan. They have no agreement with their manufacturer. They have no agreement with their distributor. You must have agreements in place with your manufacturers, with your distributors, with your vendors, with your clients. And you must always have a backup plan. Any mistake like this could cause your business to die. And then make sure you have patrons. If you have customer concentration, we're working with a client right now that 90% of their sales is on Amazon. Well, what happens if they can't sell on Amazon anymore? They just lost 90% of their revenues. 90%. We had an advertising company that had 5 clients. They lost 2 clients while we were doing the evaluation and handling the merger for them. They lost 2, leaving them with 3 clients left. They lost a tremendous amount of market share and they lost profits. And then the last P is profits. Profits is always the most important P because everybody wants to be in business to make money. And I always tell my clients, profits is never the problem, but always a symptom of not having the right people in place, not having the right processes, having the wrong product where your product is dying, having customer concentration, patron concentration, not operating on one of those 5 Ps will definitely cost you a lack of profits. Now, here's a quick way to go from hero to zero, to go from an adult prime business to a business that's almost dead. So I was selling a staffing company that had 30, 40 locations, about $3.5–4 million in EBITDA. We could have sold it between a $30 to $40 million range. The seller decides that he's going to leave his wife and marry, while he's already married, marry his high school sweetheart. You heard me correctly. marry his high school sweetheart. So this is how not to F up your business. So he decides to leave his wife to marry his high school sweetheart while we're selling the business. She turns around and sues him. And while all this is going on, the business has a catastrophic event. One of the employees loses an arm in a machine. It's the industrial staffing company. Then he falsifies workers' comp reports. And now he has no workers' comp. An industrial staffing company that loses workers' comp overnight. Guess what happened? They went from an adult prime to near death. They lost their locations. They lost most of their employees. They lost all their top clients. And we went from a $30 to $40 million sales price to where they filed bankruptcy, Chapter 11. I got approved as the stalking horse in bankruptcy court and was able to sell their business for $1.2 million. $1.2 million. None of that money went to the owner. It all went to the creditors. And there's still money that's owed. That's how you F up your business. So don't do that. Don't do that. Business owners sometimes make crazy mistakes. Here's one more example. This is a near-death. This is a good story. This is a near-death experience where a graphics company called me to sell their business. And the seller said, I want to sell my business because I just don't feel like I have the business acumen to bring the business to the next level. I just don't have the business acumen for that. And he said, it's me, my wife, we're working out of our home office, and we have one employee. And they had told the one employee that they were either going to sell or close their business. So that one employee did what all employees would do. That one employee went out and found another job. And I kept talking to this owner, and one thing that I noticed that he had, which I call the 7th P, passion. He had a tremendous amount of passion for his business. He's like, Michelle, my customers love me, and I love them, and I love the industry, and I'm turning down 6,000 clients a year. And when he said, I'm turning down 6,000 clients a year, I'm like, ding, 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 ding. The light bulb just went off in my head because most business owners have the opposite problem. They don't have enough clients. He had so many clients that they couldn't get to him. They were so busy working in their business, not working on their business, that they didn't have time to hire. They didn't have time to put people in place. They didn't have time for processes. So out of the 6 Ps, they were functioning on 3 out of the 6. They didn't have people. They didn't have processes. They had a great product. They didn't really have anything proprietary. They had great patrons, customer diversification. They did not have customer concentration, and they had profits. So they had 3 out of the 6 Ps. But the company was not sellable, and they were not in their prime. They were more in a toddler stage. Infant to toddler. And I said, look, we're not going to sell you because the business is not sellable. Anyone else would have put you on the market, and you probably would have had to shut down the business and lose everything. I'm going to partner with you, which is what I did. I partnered with them, and now we're growing the company. They're doing millions, and the company is doing great. And guess what? Husband and wife are doing great. And the same man who told me he did not have the business acumen to grow this company to the next level, it's not true. He has tremendous business acumen. He's come up with so many great ideas to catapult our business to the next level. But it was hard for him to think because when you're in your fog, it's foggy. And he became a firefighter, putting out fires all day long instead of the entrepreneur that he is. So he has tremendous business acumen. So again, reevaluate and ask yourself, what cycle am I in? What cycle is your business currently in? And build your business to run on all 6 cylinders, all of the Seiler Tucker 6 Ps, and grow your business to the healthy adult stage where you will be in your prime. So that's it. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Find Your Exit. I look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Find Your Exit podcast. Don't forget to check out Michelle Seiler Tucker's Build to Sell Blueprint books and Exit Rich, along with more blogs, videos, and resources at findyourexit.org. Be sure to connect with Michelle on Facebook or LinkedIn and stay tuned for her next episode by subscribing in your favorite podcast player.